But if only you could see them, you would know from their faces there were kings and queens, followed by princes and princesses. There were future power people.
Puberty is that time span, usually between 11 and 14, where all of a sudden a child's body is transformed into a sexually mature adult or almost adult body.
It's just kind of weird, look around and you think, well, am I supposed to look like that or act like that?
I'm just so frustrated. Why I can't do this while everybody else can?
Well, I'd like to see her be able to be 10 a little bit longer.
It's a time of tremendous physical growth, maturation of the sexual organs, emotional changes, mental changes. In general, enough changes to drive the person who's experiencing it and everybody around them a little crazy at times.
Probably you get down around 11, 12 years of age, girls are often hitting the growth spurt and boys have not yet begun theirs.
It's like when you're slow dancing or something, you gotta look up to say something or anything to them. It's kind of embarrassing.
Girls are maturing sexually. There's perhaps some emotional maturity that goes along with that. They become attractive to older boys.
When I was 12 and 13, I thought it was ugly because, they weren't interested.
Well, a lot of things are happening. Of course, they're starting to look different than they ever looked before, and that kind of changes things.
Their whole body image has to undergo radical changes. The growth is not even, so the proportion of one part of their body to another is out of proportion.
Well, it runs in my family to have large thighs, like a large frame. It's not fat looking. I just wish I had smaller thighs.
Oh yeah, and you can see that pretty much in all early adolescence. They tend to begin to have ideals about what they want to look like.
I'd like to change the color of my hair, but I have to pay for it because my mom or my dad won't let me. They think I'm too young to have my hair colored. They let me do everything else.
It's my impression that most early adolescents don't like the way they look. They don't like the way their hair looks. They don't like the way their clothes look. They don't like a lot of things about the way they look.
They know they don't look like children anymore. They don't really want to, but they know they're not adults yet. They're not sure what's going to happen next.
I think a process goes on during adolescence and into the early 20s where they finally get so you realize that your body looks the way it does and you can adjust to that.
I just try to look like me.
These hormones have a tremendous effect on the emotions. So all of a sudden you take a small human being who's had insignificant amounts of testosterone to deal with, and within a few month period of time, his body starts pumping out tremendously increased levels of this. And boys in this age group start noticing girls.
Oh yeah, the right ones. I went out with a girl for a very long time, I think about a year or so. But then it fell apart. And then a more recent one was really meaningful to me.
The hormones definitely charge the activity. A boy entering puberty or entering this early adolescent phase is likely to have more erections. Just having more erections kind of stimulates that kind of thinking.
When you're sleeping and a guy starts, dreaming about, girls and sexual experiences, and, he thinks maybe he's having sex in a dream. And
so the boys undergo a big testosterone surge at night. A natural consequence is the wet dream.
If they know about it, then they should realize what happened, but if they don't know about it, they might think that they, peed in their bed, and that's pretty embarrassing.
By the time a boy reaches 15, about 82% have had masturbatory experience. And so their sexuality is going to increase. And then it depends a lot on who they go with, what they're doing, who their reference groups are, what other kinds of directions their sexuality takes.
if they don't tell kids by the time they're 9, then they'll start, bleeding and stuff, and then what's happening? Am I hurt?
She needs to know, usually about the time that you notice that she's developing breasts and pubic hair, and the fact that one of these days she's going to start bleeding, and that it's going to occur on a regular basis, and it's going to last for a few days, and that when it happens, this is how you take care of it, and that it's okay. That it just simply means your body's growing up and preparing to be fertile.
She's 9 years old, and she was riding her bike, and she came home, and she went to the bathroom, and her mom wasn't home. Nobody had ever told her. She thought she had gotten hurt on her bike.
It can be traumatic. It's always sudden, no matter how well you've been prepared for it. And some parents just simply, I don't know if it's denial, they don't want to recognize that their child is starting to stop being a child, or if it's because they're uncomfortable, or maybe they don't feel they have enough factual information to share, and they put it off, or they just simply make a conscious decision not to tell the girl until it happens. And that's terrifying. That's really very frightening.
I don't think any folks are cool. You hit a certain age and you just become uncool. Unless you're just so immature you never actually grew up.
But they're learning a new way of thinking, which gives them a lot of feeling of power. They're also trying to form their identity as different from their parents. And they're just starting to do that. All along they just kind of figured they were who they were. Now since they can think abstractly, now they have to kind of figure out who they are in an abstract way.
Yeah, my dad has no shame. He'll do just about anything, and he doesn't care. Come to school wearing Hawaiian shirts just to embarrass us and stuff.
They're okay. They're all right. They're all right for parents. I wouldn't, I wouldn't have them as my best pals and hang out with them at school or anything, but they're okay.
Well, as they have to differentiate from their parents, and they define themselves more in terms of their peer group, and so they're really expanding their peer interactions a lot, leaving their parents, leaving some of the independence, some of the dependencies that they used to feel with their parents, and branching more out to their peers. But at the same time, in early adolescence especially, they're still kids.
I think some of the rap music has not been conducive to affirming what is positive in our society.
It's nice to listen to. The beats are, nice and everything to listen to. You can really get into it or something. And sometimes the lyrics have a message.
Ran into this girl named Carla, knew her from the backseat of my homie's Impala.
What they did in terms of the denigration of black women on their album is a sin and a shame.
It tells you about what's going on in the world, and you can learn more that way.
I don't think anybody wants to go through divorce. I think it goes to a point where they just can't live with the person they've married, and they just have to. That's the only other way. Most of my friends' parents are divorced.
It's a very confusing thing, and it prevents a lot of development in other areas because you don't get a chance to develop, to see how parents interact. For example, you lose that role model of good relationship.
Every other day, Monday, Wednesdays, I'm at my father's, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm at my mother's, and then they switch every other weekend. It's pretty much how it goes.
I think because they're of a divorce that I overcompensate and work harder at it, perhaps, than some. Because I feel sorry for my children that they have to be of a divorce.
It hurt. They learned to adjust to that. But they also didn't learn yet how to resolve an issue between two adults.
My wishing that my parents were still together is long gone. I did that years ago when they first broke up. Right now, I just accept it and just live with it.